Thanks, Liz, and thanks for having me here. I'm going to talk about corneal inlays and how we use that for treating presbyopia. So I'm going to talk about my practice and how we've used corneal inlays in my practice. These are my disclosures. I've worked with pretty much all the corneal inlay companies. As far as presbyopia, it's a challenging puzzle to solve. There's a lot of pieces. Who in the room is involved in presbyopic correction? Either industry or doctors? Okay. Who in the room thinks they have the solution? Steve Slade or Schallhorn? Are you guys still in there? So I think there's a lot of puzzles or pieces to this puzzle. It's a challenging thing to solve. I don't think there's going to be one solution to presbyopia. There's going to be a number of solutions. You have inlays, pharmacologic, you have accommodating IOLs, and multifocal, adjustable IOLs. Let's look at the aperture sort of optics, and I think there is a place for that for presbyopia correction. We've seen aperture and camera technology go from the original pinhole, literally the pinhole, to the newest digital cameras, also pinhole aperture. We're seeing the same aperture effect for optics for treating presbyopia. We have the inlay, we have pharmacologic aperture correction, and also this aperture can be placed on the lens itself. I see pharmacologic potentially being this gateway to surgical solutions. I think it may open up patients' minds to how does aperture see. I think it will work without a doubt, but the question is, will people like taking a drop every day? I'm not so sure. So I think it might open that door to saying, you know what, this aperture works, but I'm going to look for a surgical solution to correct that. So let's talk about inlay. Let's look at that piece of the puzzle, okay? So inlays, our practice, like I said, we've been involved with almost all the inlay companies. We've done a fair amount of camera. We also did some raindrop and also was involved with the presbya trial. One thing that when we looked at the myopia, like Liz discussed, you look at the bell-shaped curve, most of the people coming into our practice are kind of in the extension or the smaller parts of this bell-shaped curve. But you look at presbyopia, it represents a huge meat of that bell-shaped curve as far as the general population. We thought for sure, like, gosh, we're going to have this inlay that's approved from plus a half to minus a half. It's going to be able to treat that bell-shaped curve well. But what we learned is these patients are hard. These patients are not coming into our practice for their eye care. They're basically going to CVS for their eye care. They're getting over-the-counter readers, and they're just not coming into a refractive practice. We had to relook at how do we do inlays in our practice. We started looking at our LASIK patients. Nearly every LASIK patient that comes in for, every presbyopic LASIK patient that comes in for treatment is a candidate for corneal inlays. You can add a corneal inlay to the time of LASIK. So what we found is, let's say if you take a -4 patient coming in for LASIK, you can, if you do both eyes plano, they do well. Day one, they're seeing great distance, but invariably see these patients come in and say, Doc, what about my near vision? You took away that. They really don't understand what they're losing until you've taken it away. What we've now do is do a simultaneous inlay in one eye as well as dominant eye LASIK for distance. So day one, they're coming in distance, very good distance vision and near vision, and they have this wow effect, and they realize what they invested in. If they start doing the LASIK salute up close, they can see which eye is giving them that near vision, and it's a great addition. It keeps that sort of presbyopic LASIK patient, it gives them that continued wow effect. So what we do is a dominant eye target for plano and the non-dominant eye target a little bit more nearsighted. And you're basically taking intermediate vision and putting an aperture optic to extend distance and near vision. I think it is important to explain expectations. Corneal inlays, it sometimes takes longer for them to get to that wow effect, and also sometimes you have to control ocular surface. So it's a little bit more nuanced than LASIK, but there's definitely a place for it. There are some sort of inlay myths and realities. What we've seen, it's had a tough road over the past year with one of the inlays being removed from the market for haze concerns. But not all inlays are the same. One of the main concerns with the raindrop, that the reason it got pulled from the market is the reason it was having issues, it was implanted more sort of in the superficial cornea. For a shape-changing inlay to work, you have to implant it more superficially, and that's where the haze is more likely to be an issue. With an aperture inlay, you can place it deeper within the cornea, and you're going to get away from that haze concern. Also looking at some, there's a myth of sort of all inlays or monovision is the same as inlays, and it's not really the same. Monovision, you're basically treating a moving target. You've got a static solution for a dynamic problem, versus inlays truly is a dynamic solution for a dynamic problem. Some people say inlays is only for a niche market. You know, in 2016 and 17, the year that EDOF lenses hit the market, our biggest EDOF lens year ever, we did 182 presbyopic lenses. That same year, we did 268 inlay patients. So in our practice, it truly is a great solution. Like I discussed, haze concern really is more of a concern if you're going for superficial. In our practice, we did see a lot of haze with raindrop. We removed 8 of those out of 15, 40% secondary to haze. With a camera, we've removed only 6 out of over 400 now, and only 2 secondary to haze. So really, if it's implanted properly, you're not going to have a haze concern. So in conclusion, I think inlays do have a place for the correction of presbyopia. Inlays have a place for the refractive practice. We've seen improvements in design, surgical technique, and postoperative management, resulting in successful integration with our practice. Thank you.